Nope.
Yes.
Okay.
Somebody already did it.
All right, we're
I
good.
got it.
I think we're in.
Yes.
Maybe is this okay? Is that all right? Do it. Okay.
I gotta find my phone so I can share it.
Yeah, my hair is messed.
Good evening,
Yep.
everybody.
Hello.
Lisa's going to get my phone so I can share it out to
Okay.
Truth and Mimi. So I'll just pray in. Lord Heavenly Father, we thank you for this Bible study, Lord. We thank you that we are still in a country we can worship you freely and lift you up, Lord. We just ask that you be with all of us to be receptive to your message today, and we just give you thanks for blessing Dan that he can present your material to us. We say all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Can you turn that up just a little bit?
I can.
It's
That's
probably
what it
me.
said.
I don't have a projecty of a voice tonight.
Okay.
All right. Give me just a second here. Yeah. I know. Here we go.
I don't know why.
You should be able to hear me better. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So tonight we're going to be starting chapter 51. And it's a continuation from chapter 50 that we just finished last week. But the Isaiah the prophet here his address now turns again from the despisers of the word, whom it has threatened with the torment of fire, to those who long for salvation. Okay, so this will be a good one for us to get into, because I think the promises and the word of God still applies today to all of us that believe. So I think if everybody's ready, we'll just go ahead and get started in it. And verse 1 says, "Hearken to me, ye that follow after righteousness, ye that seek the Lord. Look unto the rock whence ye are hewn, and to the hole of the pit whence ye are digged." Now, when it says hearken unto me, it just means to listen. But here again, he addresses his discourse to the believing and godly Jews at the time. And he in the last chapter, he was tearing down the naysayers and the idolatry worshipers, right? Idol worshipers. Anyway, so it's this next phrase. It says, "Ye that follow after righteousness." Now, righteousness here means not salvation, but righteousness in conduct, a way of life in accordance with the will of God, and we can see that in Proverbs 15:9 and Romans 9:30.
I got Proverbs.
You got Proverbs? All right. And then Romans. I got to find Romans.
15:9, you said?
15:9. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Lord detests the way of the wicked, but he loves those who pursue righteousness.
Right. Okay. I don't know where Proverbs is. I can find it.
Romans
Romans.
After Acts.
Yeah, somewhere like that, right? In the New Testament.
This is next.
You want me to do Romans?
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead then.
Romans
Thank you.
9:30. What shall we say then? That the Gentiles which followed not after righteousness have attained to righteousness, even the righteousness which is of faith.
Of faith. There you go.
Right?
That's when you were talking about, right?
Right. Of faith, right. This one. That the Gentiles which followed not after righteousness. Okay. So so the righteousness there is definitely about conduct, because the Gentiles haven't been offered salvation yet. But they will through Christ. Okay. And it says, "Ye that seek the Lord, that they make it their chief care to seek favor and help from God." And that's through prayer and what is it? fasting, right? There's
Prayer
two
and
things:
fasting?
prayer and fasting,
Okay.
right? In that time period, that was the two main things
Right.
they could do, right? It says, "Look unto the rock whence ye are hewn." Now, again, this is the reference that was back in chapter 50. Again, to Abraham, the founder of the nation. The essential idea here is that God had formed the nation from the beginning as a mason constructs a building. That he had to, so to speak, taken the materials rough and unhewn from the very quarry that he had shaped, and then fitted them and then molded them into an edifice and a nation. So from the lineage of Abraham came about the Jewish nation, right? But he had to craft that first stone or find that one righteous one that found favor with him, right? So that's what he's talking about there. The term here is to look to remember Abraham, Abraham your father, and Sarah, that from them which you descended from. All right. So he's Isaiah's telling him to remember your roots, where you came from, and what kind of legacy they left that we're supposed to follow, right? So that was the main part of that one.
And that was to the Jews, right?
That was to the Jewish people that are the remnants that are still not following the pagan laws and pagan rituals, right? So, and the last one says, "And to the hole of the pit whence ye are digged." Well, the hole or pit, that quarry out of which the stones are hewed or drunk from. So here it's referring to the land of Israel, or to its original origin, right? It's implying that God actually did in a way that which Christ said he was to do, Matthew 3:9. And I've got that here. I'll read 3:9 here. I just got to get the page turned over. All right, there we go. Matthew 3:9 says, "And think not to say within yourselves, we have Abraham to our father. For I say unto you that God is able of these stones to raise up children unto Abraham." And again, that's Matthew 3:9, right? All right. So the meaning of it was impossible by the course of nature for Abraham and Sarah in their old age to procreate a child. That is, hewn a living child out of rock, or to dig one out of a pit or stone. Only God could do that, right? He was making right. Can you take something that's aged and old and her womb was closed, and he opened it, right? All right. Verse 2 says, "Look unto Abraham your father and unto Sarah that bare you. For I called him alone and blessed him and increased him." Now, again, look unto Abraham, that was figuratively expressed in the former verses, here expressed literally. Mm-hmm. They were directed to remember that God had taken Abraham and Sarah from a distant land, and that from so humble a beginning, he had increased them to a great nation. And Genesis is the next one there. Genesis 12, yeah.
They could probably find it faster than you can.
I have it.
Oh, go ahead.
See?
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, it says Abraham's journey to Egypt. Now, in Haran, the Lord said to Abraham, "Go away from your country and from your relatives and from your father's house to the land which I will show you. And I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you abundantly, and make your name great, exalted, and distinguished. And you shall be blessed. You shall be a blessing, a source of great good for others. And I will do good for, and benefit those who bless you. And I will cure that is subject to my wrath and judgment, the ones who curse you."
Okay. Right. So
it keeps going in.
Yeah, it goes on and on and talks
and then
about
all families, nations of the earth will be blessed.
Will be blessed through him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So this I think it's pretty amazing if you think about it. God said he took him away from everything he knew and was familiar with, and even his family. Abraham sacrificed a cousin, right? He went with him. a great amount of sacrifice because he believed in what God had told him in his instructions and was faithful in following those.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He's okay.
And the next part of that says, unto Sarah that bare you, which was signified by the pit or cistern, who was not only the mother of the Jewish nation, but her daughters who do well and tread in her footsteps. Right? Because the father,
So not just the Jewish nation, but
all
also
nations, other
what they said about the Gentiles.
the Gentiles, right? But her daughters also, right? That would be the other offshoots from this family, right? Because I mean, if you go just down to Jacob, right? How many wives did he have? 2, and they bore these how many children, right? Rachel and
Leah.
right? So, and you know that they had offspring, and it just kept increasing, right? So, but the thing that God's trying, or Isaiah's trying to say here is, I called him alone, literally as one, right?
And made a great nation.
If so great a nation had sprung from one man, which we find in Hebrews 11:12, so would God out of the faithful remnant once more create a people. So when he's reiterating this, is
I have,
go ahead.
sorry. I have Hebrews 11:12.
Okay.
Therefore sprang there even of one, and him as good as dead, so many as the stars of the sky in multitude, and as the sand which is by the seashore innumerable.
Innumerable, right? Okay. I was saying there, he was reminding them of the promises that he had made to their father Abraham and Sarah, and that promise still stood. And I think that's really encouraging for those that are coming out of captivity or have been abandoned and coming out of Babylon, right? That would be, I think we all need that kind of encouragement. We be reminded once in a while we still have that promise that he gave, right? And it says, and blessed him. And we know from what Dave just read in Genesis 1-3, right? Also, Genesis 24, which I got right here, 24:1 says, and Abraham was old and well stricken in age, and then the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. We know he blessed him, right? And then in 35, I believe is the other reference.
35 says,
okay.
And the Lord hath blessed my master wonderfully, and he is become great, and he hath given him sheep, oxen, silver and gold, manservants and women servants, camels and asses.
So he made him a very prosperous and great personage. Well, if you were going to develop a people or a nation, you're going to need assets, something to build off of, right? And so he established that with Abraham, and that would carry them for a few generations, wouldn't it? If you think about it, right? Because his sons would then follow after him, right? Jacob would be the, not Jacob. What's his son's name? Isaac. Isaac would follow after him, and he would also increase that prosperity and be blessed by God. And so it would just continue to build, right? He increased him. He made him father of many nations, which we already know, and it was Genesis 17:5. But I'll read it right quick. It says, neither shall thy name anymore be called Abram, but thy name shall be called Abraham, for the father of many nations have I made thee, right? So that's just a proof. Like even God had promised it, and even changed his name to carry it on. That they would know that he made him the father of many nations. Okay. So verse 3, and it starts out, it says, for the Lord shall comfort Zion. He will comfort all her waste places, and he will make her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of the Lord. Joy and gladness shall be found therein, thanksgiving and the voice of melody. Now, that's kind of a long one. but it's the first part of that. For the Lord shall comfort Zion. Now we all know who Zion is, right? The people or the Jerusalem, right? The meaning here is that he would again restore it from its ruins, from the devastation, from the captivity. The argument is drawn from the statement in the previous verses. If God had raised up so great a nation from so humble an origin, he had power to restore the waste places of Judea to more than their former beauty and prosperity. There was nothing he couldn't do. It all belonged to him anyway, right? All he had to do was speak it. And he says here, and he talks about, and he will make her wilderness. Well, Judea is here represents a lying waste. It is to be remembered that the time to which the prophet here refers is that of the captivity and near its close of that time. Okay. So there's, for the last, how many years was in the captivity? 40 years?
This one?
Yeah.
70 years.
70 years. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because it comes up later.
Your note goes into that.
Yeah. Anyway, they, so if you leave a property or an area undeveloped or lack of maintenance, even, what happens? The weeds grow up, everything rusts. Nature takes over, right? So I put a note there. The time would have been near 70 years, right? In so long a period, Judah would have become almost an extended wilderness or a wide waste area. Okay. Any country that was naturally as fertile as Judah would in that time be overrun with briars, thorns, underbrush, and even with the wild and luxuriant growth of the trees of the forest. But if you think about it, what are you going to need to rebuild Jerusalem? A forest. To rebuild the homes, commerce, all that has, wagons, everything has to be from the forest. So in 70 years, you would have new stock. Okay. And this one I like too. It says like Eden. Well, it's like a cultivated and fertile garden, distinguished not for only its fertility, but it's for its beauty and order. And in Genesis 2:8, you have that? No, you read. I got it. Right here. 2:8 says, and the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put man with whom he had formed, right? So if you think about it, Adam didn't plant a garden, did he?
No.
He was placed in it to grow, fertile and distinguished. So I don't know about you guys, but when I see the fields and the blooms across the desert out here on the swore cactus, it's magnificent to see. If you go up into some of the other areas, especially in the higher elevations where we have the trees, it's just the color and the match, and it's balanced. It's a very balanced system up there, and that has to be by God, because man has a hard time doing that. Okay. All right. And I like this phrase too. It says, joy and gladness. The sound of rejoicing and praise shall be again heard there, where are now heard the cries of wild beasts. If people come into an area and we start restoring it, the animals soon move out, right? Because they don't compete with man for space. They'll leave the area. We've seen that over and over, right? Mm-hmm. And then the voice of melody. In Hebrew, it means a psalm or a song, right? The praises of God shall again be celebrated. Well, not only it will be celebrated with the people, but they're going to restore the temple, right? And that's where the songs or psalms would be repeated and taught again to all the people. Okay. All right. Are we okay? Number 4. You guys got any questions on that? No? Okay. It says, hearken unto me, my people, and give ear unto me, O my nation, for a law shall proceed from me, and I will make my judgment to rest for a light of the people. Now, anytime you say hearken, it's like listen up.
Yep.
Right? There's going to be a test, right?
Yeah.
He's talking. It's basically saying, ye Jews, whom I chose to be my peculiar people. He's addressing them specifically.
Mhm.
Do not reject my counsel, which I have told you, even the Gentiles will receive,
Mhm.
nor forsake the mercies of which even they will partake. My righteousness is near, my salvation is gone forth, and mine arm shall judge the people. The isles shall wait upon me, and my arm shall they trust.
So you're reading 5 already?
No, it's 4, right?
No,
It's just hearken unto the people. No, that's I was reading this one.
Okay. So it pretty much says the same thing as 5, just an FYI.
Okay. Okay. So we'll go through it. It's real similar, right? All that in that whole 4th verse, when it talks about and give ear unto me, listen, right? How many times you tell your kids, hey, are you listening to me? Right? Did you hear what I said?
And they always look down. Don't look at you and go, yeah.
Yeah, sure. And they have no clue what you just said.
And then you go, okay, what did I say?
Yeah, right.
And sometimes they rattle it off.
Sometimes they do, right? It's amazing, right? And I like the fact that in this 4th verse, he goes, oh, my nation. He takes ownership, doesn't he? Right? Now, what do you think this law shall proceed from me? What is that? Is that Moses' law?
No, they've already got Moses.
They already have Moses' law. So what next law is that?
It's the new covenant.
It's a new covenant that will be coming, right?
Tell me more.
He's because it says here, because in this under this hearken, it says, even the Gentiles will receive. That can only come through Christ, because his own people rejected him.
Okay.
So he opened it for the Gentiles, right? And also it says, nor forsake the mercies of which even they will partake. So they will have the blessings and the mercies that God pours out, just like for the Jews, right? So that it's kind of a preamble, I guess I would say, to the new covenant. And Isaiah seeing it, but he's not grasping the whole thing yet. Does that make sense? I'll explain it more as we get farther into this chapter. We'll see more of it. Okay, so we'll go to 5. My righteousness is near. Ooh. My salvation gone forth again, right? And my arm shall judge the people. The isles shall wait upon me, and on my arm shall they trust. Again, we have that which was up in the 5th verse of it, right? My righteousness is near. The word righteousness is used in a great variety of significations in the Bible. Abraham was righteous, right? Moses became righteous, right? So the word here, it means the faithful completion of his promises to his people. What Isaiah is saying, that God is righteous always. And you have to have that faith and that belief that he's going to take care of his promises.
That he will do what he said he was going
To
to
do, right. Because I don't know if we're not exposed to a lot of idolatry, actual idol worship. But a lot of people, they put their full trust into a man-made object. And usually what happens is it fails them, right? But the influence, living around it, will cause you to have doubt, right? Does that make sense? So these people have been exposed to this idol worship or pagan worship for so long that they don't have any faith in man anymore. And Isaiah is trying to get them to rekindle their faith in God and his promises. That's why he did the review of that by going back into Genesis and Proverbs, right? You're sympathetic too, huh?
Did any actually, no, it's emotional.
Okay.
Did anybody in any of this conversation that Isaiah was having,
Mm-hmm.
did anybody ask him how long?
I don't want to get ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll shut up.
All right. So yeah, that's a good question, right? These people are going to ask him
Because he says speedily, right?
speedily. Yeah, we get into that in a second. But my arm shall judge the people. The isles shall wait upon me. There's a time period. Okay, so we'll get into that in here. But let's go to my salvation is going forth. Isaiah always speaks as if the Messianic kingdom was to supervene almost immediately on the return of the exiles to Palestine. He hasn't grasped it yet. You understand what I'm saying? He's speaking like it's going to happen really soon, right? Within a short period of time, because he's seen what God wanted him to see. Does that make sense? A lot of times I look at it this way. I used to do oil painting, right? And I see something I want to paint, right? But to actually put it on canvas or to recreate that, right? It takes many hours and a process to put it on canvas, what I see, right? Well, what he's seeing, he's trying to speak it, right? He sees the canvas and what's coming, but it doesn't have dates or times with it, right? Does that make sense? God didn't.
I just wonder because they talk about Jesus is coming soon.
Right.
Define soon.
You're right. Well, and that's what I'm going to put in here, right? I put the note. It was not revealed to him that there would be an interval of from 500 to 600 years between the two events. But Isaiah was so passionate with his belief. But I always like to go like 2 Peter says, a day with the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is a day to the Lord. So who was it? Who was a short time for? Was he speaking about himself, or was he speaking about the Lord's time? And he might have been viewing it from the Lord's viewpoint because that's what the Lord put in his mind. Does that make sense? And not realizing it would be that 500 or 600 years between those two events. Okay.
Yeah, because that would be what, 5-10 minutes.
It's I would say 1,000 years, about 30 minutes, or a day, half a day. You know,
A day is 1,000, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be a day.
About 12
half
hours.
a day.
About 12 hours from now, it'll happen, right? So you have to kind of put it in perspective there. And a lot of people miss that because he was speaking about something that was coming in the future that was promised, right? Because up here he says, a law shall proceed from me, right? Well, who's the giver of the law? God, right? So he has to send someone, and I will make my judgment to the rest for a light of the people. Who was the light? Jesus Christ, right? Okay. So you kind of have to understand where Isaiah is coming from. He's an enthusiastic, dedicated prophet. And he has been for a long period of time, going all over Judea and Palestine, right? Preaching. And he did it his whole life, the rest of his life, right? Because he had that vision in his head and he was trying to convince the people of what he saw, right? And they respected him as a prophet. But there's always those, you have to have those believers. You have to give hope, right? And that's what God wanted them to do. He wanted them to restore their faith, is what he was doing. Okay. I like this part. It says, my arms shall judge the people. Either one shall destroy those people who obstruct or oppose this work, right? Or two shall subdue the Gentiles to mine authority and rule them by my word and spirit. Who was the word? Jesus Christ, right? Which agrees best with the following clause of this verse, right? Because it says the isles will have to wait, right? Do you remember that previous verse? I'll go back right quick and I'll read it. And it says, the isles shall wait upon me, right? So when you go to that and you see the isles here, these are the remote countries of the Gentiles. As Isaiah, we found, if we read 41:1 and 42:4 in Isaiah, you got one of those? 42?
What do you want? Isaiah 42?
Yeah, 41:1 or 42:4.
I'll take 42.
She's got 42, right? I think 41:1. Right there.
41:1.
Yeah, go ahead if you got it there. Thank you.
Be silent before me, you islands. Let the nations renew their strength. Let them come forward and speak. Let us meet together at the place of judgment.
Ah, there you go. Okay. And then-
He will, 42:4, right?
yeah.
He will not falter or be discouraged till he establishes justice on earth. In his teaching, the islands will put their hope.
Okay. So what he's expressing there is the islands are the Gentile nations,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's going to bring them all together, right? And the final judgment's where? The final judgment's when Christ returns, right?
Mhm.
Or when Christ returns. And then he's going to establish his new kingdom on
Right.
earth in Jerusalem.
Is that the new covenant?
That's part of the new covenant. Yes. Okay. So Isaiah was so privy to see all of it and what would come, right? He actually had visions, a part of Revelation, before Revelation was ever written, right? And the isles he refers to as the Gentiles, right?
So why are they referred to as isles?
Because they were not part of the nation of Israel, his chosen people. So they would be considered outside of that group, right? And anything that's outside of a group, probably the reference there is the Greek Isles, because they did trade with them.
That's what I was wondering.
In the Mediterranean, they would be considered isles,
Okay.
and not part of their people, but they would be exposed to them. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So they would understand it's not the people that live here.
Right. It's just so that, it's not the people that live here, or that this is not their home, right?
Well, I'm just wondering why they didn't call them foreigners or.
I think that's the word we came up with.
Foreigner is more of it's an English phrase. The Isles also mean anything outside of the waters or the boundaries of Judea. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah. We're going to look it up, and we'll give you a full explanation here in just a second.
Okay.
Yeah. Why not?
I'm just asking if the word for foreigners in the Bible. Strangers, sojourners, aliens, foreigners, neighbors.
Right. That's some of them. Right. Look up Isles. What does Isles mean in Hebrew?
To inhabit.
Right.
Shoreland as opposed to sea. Dry land as opposed to rivers.
Okay. Let me read that one out loud. So, okay. So the plural of islands is isles. The Bible says the lost 10 tribes will be in the isles of the sea, meaning isles to the west of the land of Israel, and referring mainly to the British Isles. All right, and that's from biblical meanings from.
And then if you move up,
And then I'll also give you the Hebrew isles is ayam from awa to inhabit. So shoreland at opposed to sea, dry land as opposed to rivers. Okay, so it would be like the deserts. I've been in the desert sometimes, and I felt like I was on an island, right? Isolated from everything else.
Or you find a piece of rock in the sand, and that's an island.
Yes, exactly. Okay, there you go. That makes sense. All right.
Okay.
Does that help? Everybody
Yeah.
okay with that? Okay. The fact is that the rest of that says shall wait upon me. It means they're going to shall confidently expect and hope for this promised righteousness and salvation from me, and from me only, and not from idols as they have done or by any other way. So the remote countries of the Gentiles are going to expect and hope for this promised righteousness and salvation. That's why they were so readily to accept it when Jesus was preaching, right? and talking. Does that make sense? He had placed it upon their hearts. Even the Jewish people didn't want to break from routine or conformity,
Tradition.
tradition, right? And so the Gentiles were more open to the new covenant and the new messianic period, right? All right, so we'll go to 6 then. And it says, lift up your eyes to the heavens and look upon the earth beneath. For the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment. And they that dwell therein shall die in like manner. But my salvation shall be forever, and my righteousness shall not be abolished. Now, when they started out with this one, lift up your eyes to the heavens, it means observe their beauty and their order, right? The constant and regular motion of the heavenly bodies, the firmness and solidity of them, and look upon the earth beneath. How stable and well-founded it is. I'm sure that when, if you ask some of the astronauts or some of the people that are in the space station, when they look down, the earth is not wobbling. They don't see the wobble. They don't see, since they're in the same, rotation around the sun, it would look like a stable, but it's, from everything I've ever read, every astronaut says it's the most beautiful thing they've ever looked upon. The blues of the ocean, the white clouds, land, right? So if I was to lift up eyes and observe, go to heaven and then look back down on the earth, it's going to be beautiful, right? Now it says, for the heavens shall vanish away like smoke. Now they are so firm and have lasted so long and have kept their constant situation and course, yet they shall melt away like salt, as the word signifies, and disappear in an instant like smoke. The reference seems to be had to the general configuration when the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. And that's in 2 Peter 3:12.
3:10.
3:10. So I put 12.
Well, they're actually both. It's in both.
Okay. We can do 10. Okay.
But the day of the Lord will come like a thief. The heavens will be filled with a roar. The elements will be destroyed by fire, and the earth and everything done in it will be laid bare.
Mm-hmm.
This is as you look forward to the day of God and speed its coming. That day will bring about the destruction of the heavens by fire, and the elements will melt in the heat.
Okay. All right. Melt in the heat, right? That's what you're saying here, right? Yeah. So to God, the heavens that He's created, because we know He has angels assigned to them to keep all the stars. They're all numbered, right? It was only necessary for who? The stars are for us.
Mm-hmm.
The heavens are for us. They're not for God, right? Or His kingdom. Now, the reason that even Christ says that the earth shall be remade or renewed, right? And that means you have to remove all the, I call it the contamination from it. Does that make sense? Before he brings the new Jerusalem here. Okay. Are you good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go to the next one. We're only going to do about 8 or 9 of these tonight. All right. It says, key phrase here says, and the earth shall wax old like a garment. It'll be folded up and laid aside as useless. And then in Psalms, I got that one. Psalms 102, right here. 26. It says, they shall perish, but thou shalt endure. Yea, all of them shall wax old like a garment, as a vesture shalt thou change them, and they shall be changed. It's going to be renewed.
That's the same thing all over the place in the Bible, doesn't it?
Yes, it's all tied together, and like you said, like Dave said on Sunday, there's always 2 or 3 to support that statement, so the thread continues, right? So this seems to design not a substantial destruction of the earth, but of its qualities. When waxing old, it shall be renewed and changed. Jeremiah, what do you call him? the historian, interprets these clauses as the princes of the host of the people in heaven and the governors of the earth, but the inhabitants there are mentioned next. Is he going to remove the evil from the earth? Yes,
He is.
right. They're going to go up as smoke,
Right.
right? So he reestablishes them, and it says, and they that dwell there shall die in the like manner, as the heavens and the earth be dissolved as they, and in like manner vanish the smoke, and be seen no more, or wax old as a garment and become useless and unprofitable. They do renders it as a louse, right? So this word sometimes signifies that this sense is approved by many learned men and seem to be aggressed with the text. Since neither heavens and earth are said to die, nor smoke or a garment, it may donate how loathsome and nauseous wicked men are in life, like vermin, and how mean and contemptible unto death. Their bodies are vile and despicable, and how easily they are destroyed. He gets rid of the evil, the wicked, right? Didn't he already condemn Satan to the smoke? Yeah, same thing. So that's what Isaiah is trying to get across to them. The day of judgment and the renewing of the earth is going to take place, and that smoke is going to happen. Okay. But then he gets reinsurance in this by this next part of this verse. This next clause says, "But my salvation shall be forever." Now, that salvation which Christ has wrought out of his people is an everlasting salvation. And in Isaiah 14, 17, and Hebrews 5:9.
I've got Isaiah.
You got Isaiah? Okay, thank you.
Isaiah 14:17, that made the world a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the prison to the prisoners.
Ah. Okay. Okay, and then you got
I don't have it.
Oh, Hebrews. Where's Hebrews at? New Testament, right? It's not there. Okay.
He was just a little bitty book, so
Is
you're
it?
going to just slip through it if you don't know where it is.
I don't know where it is. Oh, right here, I got it. 8:10.
Ooh,
That's good.
it's pretty good.
Okay, it says 8:10. Hebrews 8:10 says, "For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people." Okay. So, in whose heart is my law? Those he
The
writes it
righteous
in.
ones,
The
yeah.
righteous ones, right?
Those who are saved by salvation.
Right. And then the next clause of this verse is, "Fear ye not the reproach of men." If we have the promise of God and the assurance of his favor, we shall have no occasion to dread the reproaches and the scoffs of people. And that's in Matthew 10:28. Here I keep jumping back and forth. But
Well, it's not your responsibility. We're supposed to read.
Yep.
Matthew 10:28.
Right.
Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell.
Right. And that's God. Right. If you're going to have fear, make sure it's the right one.
Yep.
And that's reverence, revere him. Right. I like this, the wording in this last part of this one. It says, "Neither be ye afraid of their revilings, like vile,
Mm-hmm.
right? Be not afraid their shocking blasphemies, nor spiteful taunts and jeers, nor menacing words, not even cruel persecutions should not deter the saints from the profession of Christ and his gospel."
You guys got Psalm?
9:20 and 10:8.
Yeah, I can get Psalms.
Okay, thanks, bud.
He gets 9, I'll get 10.
After that, I get 9.
Yeah.
9:20.
20, yeah.
It says 9:20. It's the last verse of the song. It says, "Put them in reverence, fear of you, O Lord, so that the nations may know they are so that the nations may know they are but frail and mortal men. Selah.
Ah,
Yep.
okay. I like that one.
Okay. 10:18 is also the last one of the verse. Defending the fatherless and the oppressed so that mere earthly mortals will never again strike terror.
Ooh.
Awesome.
Ooh. I like that. That's a great promise. We'll not have the evil and the corruption we have in this world today ever again. He cleanses it, right? I hear Bryson. Or I hear one
Nope.
of them. Oh, that's yours?
You probably hear
You
Gunner.
hear Gunner in here with his.
All right. All right. All right. Number 8. For the moth shall eat them up like a garment, and the worm shall eat them like wool, but my righteousness shall be forever, and my salvation from generation to generation. It's a powerful, powerful verse. The moth shall eat them up like a garment. Now, that they were so weak when compared with Yahweh that even the moth, one of the smallest and most contemptible of insects, would consume them. We have moths that fly around our lights and things. You just bat them away, right? But that small little ball of powder, I call it, when you hit their wings, is going to destroy those that are evil, right? The expression occurs in Isaiah 59, which is in the next verse. But I go to Job. Is what we want to do. I think it's after
Sure,
Psalms.
you give me something. I don't know where it is.
Oh, you do. It's past there somewhere.
It is on page 784.
Okay, 784. Good. That's in your book, right? That's not my
On
book.
page 784, I have Job.
Okay, got
What's
Job.
where am I going in Job?
4:18, 18, 19, and 20. There you go. You almost got it.
4:18.
19 and 20.
If God places no trust in his servants, if he charges his angels with error, how much more those who live in houses of clay, whose foundations are in the dust, who are crushed more readily than a moth. Between dawn and dusk they are broken to pieces, unnoticed, they perish forever.
That's the evil, aren't they?
Unnoticed.
Unnoticed. Forgotten. You won't remember them.
No legacy.
No legacy, nothing. Right? All right. And then we go to the worm shall eat them like wool, or as a woolen garment, which is most liable to be moth eaten, but there's a worm that the larva will lay. Right? For the moth and the worm are much the same. In the Arabic tongue, the moth is called by a name much of the same sound with this word in the text. And I put the note in here for us. The word rendered worm, asas, from the Greek anas, means strictly moth, although common in the Semitic language, it is found only here in the Hebrew.
Okay.
Right? So it's, if you think about it, a moth and a worm, how hard is enough to destroy them? Is what he's trying to get across is that the meekest and the most.
They're very insignificant. In mine in here, it even says they die like flies.
They die, okay, they're like flies, like the larva, right? That's what they're trying to get across in here. Okay?
Nothing but a little gnat.
The little gnat, right? Right. Then again, he reiterates the fact that my righteousness shall be forever. This is to justify and reassure his people and secure them from the wrath and ruin that's going to come to those that are unrighteous. Okay. And then the last part of that says, and my salvation from generation to generation, it means it will abide through the endless ages of eternity and be the portion of the saints forever, and which they are now heirs of, and will be everlastingly enjoyed by them, firm against all the accusations and charges of men and devils. So no matter what the world thinks of us, we have the promise of eternity with no judgment and without them around, right? Because they chose their poison, I guess is the word I'm looking for, right? All right. I'm going to do 9, and I think that's it for 9, right? All right. It says 9, awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of the Lord. Awake as in the ancient days, in the generation of old. Art thou not in that hath cut Rahab and wounded the dragon. Now, this verse commences a new subject here a little bit. This chapter now is designed for the comfort and encouragement of those that fear God and keep his commandments. Even when they walk in darkness and have no light, whether it was intended primarily for the support of the captives in Babylon is not certain. Most scholars think it probably was. He's specifically speaking to those that are coming out, right? Because they've been subject to what? Paganism, and they've had to hide their beliefs. Thankfully, Daniel was there and his three companions, right, to help keep the faith, I guess is the word I'm looking for, right? The belief. Anyway, it says, awake, awake. I think that's much like when Christ says, verily, verily. Isaiah says, awake, awake, right?
It's like shaking somebody and saying, wake up.
Right? Yeah. It is a solemn and impassioned entreaty of those who were in exile that God would interpose in their behalf, as he did in behalf of his people when they were suffering the cruel bondage in Egypt, which was a few hundred years prior to this one, right? 1,000 years, 1,500 years or something like that. About 1,500 years. Yeah. So the word awake here, which is addressed to the arm of Jehovah, is a petition that it be roused from its apparent stupor and inactivity, and his power in their behalf. So there's two viewpoints on it. Either Isaiah is calling out to God to help them. Basically, it's almost like a prayer. He's saying, he's like, the people have been so under the oppression and the rule of the pagans and the evil of men that they're afraid to even call out.
They're afraid to say something. They're afraid
Right.
to.
So he's like saying, awake, awake, don't be woke anymore. Awake.
Right. Don't be
Right.
woke, awake.
Hey, yes, become aware
Yeah.
of the strength that you have in Christ,
Right.
in God.
And God. Right.
Because the Romans and all them would have been like woke back then.
Yes, they
Right.
would have been. It's exactly the same thing going on.
Exactly.
Right. Yep. Because the elite were in power.
Right.
It hasn't changed
And
much.
they
huh?
wanted it to stay that way
Right.
because
And if you
they
didn't,
liked their
and
little
if you-
lifestyle.
and if you didn't want to follow along, they killed you.
Yep.
Or took you to the arenas to fight the lions and the bears and or be
They
sacrificed.
gave up a life. They gave up a eternity
Or temporary.
for and what
And
50 years.
Roman Empire lasted about
The people themselves.
the people did, yes.
They gave up eternity for 50 years of worldliness.
Worldliness, right. And when he says, "Oh, arm of the Lord," who is he talking about here? What's the arm of the Lord? His people, right? The arm is an instrument by which we execute any purpose. It is thereby which the warrior engages in battle and by which he wields the weapon to prostrate his foes, right? So the arm of, historical note, the arm of Yahweh had seemed to slumber for a while, hadn't it? For the time period they were in captivity. For 70 years, the prophet sees the oppressed and suffering people in bondage. And God had not come forth to rescue them like he had in former times and save them from the calamities which they were enduring. But it was also part of his judgment, wasn't it? For their following the pagan beliefs.
Right.
Right? Did you realize that in that 70 years, that was a new generation? You ever notice that that's a theme through the whole Old Testament?
He has to wipe out the tribal knowledge.
right, and restore his knowledge, his laws, and his morals, right? And they have to go back to their teachings, is what happens, right? The generation picks its own choice, doesn't it?
Yeah, they do.
Right? All right, so I think there's a little more left in this
So
one.
like the word arm is like armament then, right? Like
Yes.
Weapon.
Yes. I'm, my arm, my word is your weapon.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Right. So like arms, you take up arms, you take up your firearms or your sword
Right.
or
Right.
whatever you have at that
Right.
time.
Right. And so
Okay.
if they're coming out of bondage, they have no weapons as physical weapons of the world, but they have his truth and his word.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense? All right. Now, when it says awake, as in the ancient days, That is, in the time of when the Jews were delivered from their bondage in the land of Egypt, what happened? Awake, remember, right? Remember what's going on here. What happened before? Art thou not it? Aren't you the same arm? Aren't you the same, my people that I created from Abraham and Sarah? I can see Isaiah arguing this or trying to wake them up to get back to their roots, right? Was it not by his arm that the children of Israel were delivered from bondage? Yeah. And may we not look to it for protection still? If you're faithful and you're following his righteousness and you're following his laws, he is going to take care of you. But a great example was the oppression and the bondage that he placed them in because they failed to follow it, or they ignored it and said that they wanted to rule, right? All right, so now this next part is they have cut Rahab, that is, cut in pieces or destroyed it. It was that arm which wielded the sword of justice and vengeance by which Rahab was cut in pieces. The word Rahab means Egypt. So
That's interesting because Rahab is also that woman, the prostitute woman that helped them in Jericho. That was her name, Rahab.
Rahab, right? It's pronounced Rahab, but in Egyptian or that language. But yeah, Rahab. And didn't she help them? Yeah, right.
But that's not what this is talking about.
No, this word means Egypt. On the meaning of the word, see the notes at Isaiah 37, and you can compare Psalms. I'm going to go to Isaiah. Right
I'll
here.
go to the Psalms.
Okay, you got that one? All
It's
right.
a poetical name for Egypt.
Yeah, it's poetical. Yeah.
Psalms 88.
All right. So I got Isaiah 37.
88.
All right. Oop. All right. I'm going to go ahead and read 37 while you guys looking that one up.
And insolence and pride.
Right. So, for the Egyptians shall help in vain and to no purpose. Therein have I cried concerning this. Their strength is to set still. So their strength was within their own borders, but they had no strength outside of it, right? Because God destroyed their army at the time of them crossing the Red Sea, didn't he?
Yes.
They were cut to pieces. They had no reason, no way to protect themselves, right? And then you have Psalms 88.
David's got Psalms.
Dave's got, okay. Thank you, Dave.
All right. Psalms 88:8 says, Thou hast put away mine acquaintances far from me. Thou hast made me an abomination unto them. I am shut up. I cannot come forth. Woe me, etc.
Yeah. Right. So he's saying that's part of how he treated Egypt, right? He isolated them. And all they did was complain. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thou hast broken Rahab in pieces as one that is slain. Thou hast scattered thine enemies with thy strong arm.
Right. So the last part of this one is the wounded dragon. And wounded the dragon. The word here, rendered here, dragon, is Tainaya, means properly any great fish or sea monster, or a serpent, a dragon, or a crocodile. Here it probably means the crocodile is emblematic of Egypt. The king of Egypt not infrequently compared with the crocodile. And you can see that in Psalms and Ezekiel. I'm at 30. Where was I at? Oh, you got Ezekiel? Okay. You in Psalms, right? Yeah, I got Psalms. Psalms 34. All right. I got Psalms 34, and Dave, Newport's got Ezekiel. Which one, Dave? Both of them?
29:3 or
29:3.
29:3. Okay. So I'm doing Psalms 34, 13 through 14, right?
Ezekiel 32.
Right here.
Dave
Keep
said,
thy tongue from evil and thy lips from speaking guile. Depart from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. The eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and his ears are open unto their cry. Right? Oh, the face of the Lord is against them that do evil, to cut off their remembrance of them from the earth. Okay? That was 13, 14, and 15 there. And 16, yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Dave.
Ezekiel 29:3 says, "Speak and say, thus says the Lord God, Behold, I come against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, thou great dragon that lies in the midst of thy rivers, and sayest, The rivers are mine and the nations."
Okay. And then
I have,
okay.
I have Ezekiel 32:2.
All right.
Son of man, take up a lamentation for Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and say unto him, Thou art like a young lion of the nations, and thou art as a whale in the sea. And thou camest forth with thy rivers, and troublest the waters with thy feet, and foulest their rivers.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Great. So my
They
last,
muddied the water.
yeah, the last part is here. The sense is that he had sorely wounded, that is, had greatly weakened the power of that cruel nation, right? Which for strength was not unfitly represented by the crocodile, right? Because they were powerful on the water, right? Which is like a pierced and wounded monster that was greatly enfeebled when God visited with plagues and destroyed its host in the sea.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's it. Right? Yeah. So he's trying to remind them that as they come out of captivity, did God destroy their oppressors? Even in Babylon, right? Destroy Babylon.
Yes.
Because Cyrus, right? Yeah. And Cyrus slaughtered them, even in the river, which was that flowed under it, because he diverted it and took away the power of the crocodile. Right?
We'll talk more about that in 51:13.
Yeah, we have more coming, a lot more about this in the next.
So when we do the next one, we should recap 9 again, because it actually kind of
Okay.
starts that.
Okay, so I'll make a note.
I kind of did in my
Oh, you did? Okay. All right. So I hope everybody understands that this is a very powerful chapter for what we're going through right now. to have faith, be renewed in his promises.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's all you got,
Right.
and that's enough for me. So, all right. Any other questions? Anybody?
I don't have any from Rumble, so
Okay. And we don't have any other questions, so we didn't have any questions.
No, I don't know if you have any. Because you.
Oh.
Just kidding.
Where's the? Oh, button.
There's no.
Okay, no comments. Okay. All right. So I'll close this out in prayer tonight. Appreciate everybody that was here. I have some prayer requests tonight, so I'm going to go over those. But you guys have any over there?
no.
I
Anybody
sent
else?
mine over
Yeah.
yesterday in the board.
Lisa already
Yes.
sent them over.
All right, give us a second here. I want to make sure we get them all, right? Yeah, Aunt Jan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any word on that one?
Haven't heard anything yet today.
Okay.
Oh, we need to add JR.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'll tell you later what's going on.
Okay. We'll just, okay. You guys ready? Lord, we come tonight. We give you thanks for this verse in Isaiah to remind us of your promises and your power and your authority over the heavens and the earth, and that we can look to eternity for you and with you. And I want to ask some prayers for some people tonight. We asked for Kevin, the loss of his girlfriend. You know that situation, you know what he needs, and to lay your hand to put strength and courage in him. We have a baby tonight that's very sick in our family. His name is Nate. We ask you to touch that fever, break that fever, and get him off the oxygen so that he can continue to grow up and be a faithful follower of yours. I know that his family is. And then also for Steve Thomas, he had a rhinoplasty done today and is having some complications and extra bleeding, had to be admitted back to the hospital for surgery. And so we want you to touch that situation and be with him. We also want you to be with and put your hand of healing and over Aunt Jan of Lisa's family, and for her pneumonia, and clear up her throat and open up her airways so that she can get better. And we give you the praise and glory for that. And also we want you to be with JR and his family and put your hand of protection and healing on JR. If it's in your will and your authority, we ask you to do that. And what? No, and we ask that you be with all of us as we go about our week. Be with us, and to remember that the evil that's in this world doesn't affect us. It doesn't. It shouldn't influence. And then we always look to you and keep you in our hearts so that we remain righteous to you. And we all say all these things in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Right.
Okay, end the broadcast.
I'm going to end the broadcast here. I'm going to a little bit over an hour. All right. Did I do it?
Mm-mm.
Whoop.